I'm an 18-year-old girl, and for most of my life, I thought my family was solid. It was just me, my mom 45, and my dad, 47. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any family, but we always seemed close, or so I thought. Things started falling apart a couple of years ago when I was 16. My parents' marriage was already under strain, mostly because of financial problems. My dad had lost his job, and the stress of bills piling up turned into constant arguments. At first, they tried to shield me from it, but it wasn't long before every dinner turned into a shouting match. When they announced they were divorcing, I wasn't exactly shocked, but it still hit me hard. My dad moved out almost immediately, and for a while it was just me and my mom. I tried to keep things normal, but the atmosphere was heavy. It wasn't long before my mom started dating again. Within a year, she remarried. Her new husband, James, came with a 17-year-old daughter named Jenny. Jenny was the kind of person who lights up a room. She's bubbly, outgoing, and charming, basically everything I'm not. When they first moved in, I thought we might actually get along. I tried to bond with her, inviting her to hang out, but it felt like she was always a step ahead. She had this natural ability to draw people in, and before I knew it, my mom was completely enamored with her. First, it was small things. My mom would rave about Jenny's accomplishments at dinner, and suddenly, every family outing revolved around her. For my last birthday, my mom got me a cake and a sweater. When Jenny's birthday rolled around a couple of months later, they threw her a massive party and surprised her with a car. Not just any car, either a shiny new one. I had never received anything close to that, not even when I graduated. I tried talking to my mom about how I was feeling, but she brushed it off. She said I was being ridiculous and that I needed to stop being jealous. That word jealous stuck with me. Was I jealous? I didn't think so. I just wanted to feel like I still mattered. Around this time, I started spending more weekends at my dad's place. I told him everything, and he was furious on my behalf. He reassured me that it wasn't all in my head and encouraged me to stand up for myself. But it wasn't easy. James had started influencing how things were run at home. He always talked about how blended families should work, but it was clear that his priority was Jenny. It felt like I was the odd one out in my own house. Family holidays became unbearable. Jenny was always the center of attention while I was more of an afterthought. One Christmas, my mom canceled a vacation we had been planning for years, saying we couldn't afford it. Later, I found out the money had gone to fund Jenny's extracurricular activities. It was another slap in the face. Jenny, for her part, wasn't exactly innocent. She had a knack for manipulating situations to her advantage. Anytime there was tension, she'd play the victim, making it seem like I was the problem. I started keeping my distance, but that only made things worse. The more I pulled away, the more my mom seemed to cling to her. The breaking point came one evening when I overheard my mom talking to James. She was laughing and said something along the lines of, "I'm just so lucky to finally have the daughter I always wanted. I can't even describe what it felt like to hear that." I didn't confront her right away. I just went to my room, packed a bag, and called my dad. By the end of the week, I had officially moved in with him. Looking back, I think that was the moment everything changed. It wasn't just about Jenny anymore. It was about realizing that my mom didn't see me as a priority. Moving out was my way of taking control, but I knew it was just the beginning of a much bigger battle. When I moved in with my dad, it felt like stepping into a whole new world. He didn't just welcome me with open arms. He made it clear that his home was now my home. He helped set up my room, even finding some old photos of us to hang on the walls. It was comforting, but there was no time to really settle in. The fallout from my decision hit fast. My mom's reaction came almost immediately. She called me nonstop, leaving voicemails accusing me of being ungrateful. She kept saying things like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" She wasn't interested in understanding why I left. She was focused on making me feel guilty for doing it. Jenny wasted no time making her feelings known, either. Within days of me moving out, she started posting little digs on social media. One of her posts was a picture of her sitting in the car my mom had bought her, with the caption, "Guess I'm the only daughter now." Another was a group photo from a family dinner I wasn't invited to, captioned, "Family first." It didn't take long for mutual friends to notice, and soon the rumors started flying at school. The split wasn't just at home. Extended family members began taking sides too. Some of them reached out to me, saying they understood why I left and even admitted they'd noticed how my mom was treating Jenny differently. Others, though, sided with my mom, claiming I was being dramatic and that I should go back home to fix things. It felt like the entire family was being dragged into the mess. As if all that wasn't enough, my dad told me he was reopening the divorce proceedings. Apparently, there were financial disputes that hadn't been fully resolved, and my mom's recent spending, especially on Jenny, was raising red flags. My dad wanted to make sure I'd be taken care of, so he decided to fight for some of the assets my mom had claimed. Meanwhile, my mom made one attempt after another to get me to come back. She sent me long messages about how much she missed me and how she wanted things to go back to the way they were. But she never addressed the real issues. It was always about how I was hurting her feelings, not about the favoritism or the way she'd prioritized Jenny over me. My dad suggested I try therapy to process everything, and honestly, it was a good idea. Talking to someone neutral helped me untangle a lot of what I was feeling, but it also gave me the confidence to start standing up for myself. I stopped answering my mom's guilt-tripping messages, and when she brought up Jenny, I shut the conversation down. Jenny wasn't giving up her games, though. At school, she started spreading stories about how I'd abandoned our blended family because I couldn't handle sharing attention. Mutual friends were getting caught in the middle, and it felt like every hallway I walked down was filled with whispers. But by then, I was starting to realize that her manipulation only worked if I let it. So I stopped engaging, which seemed to frustrate her even more. The legal proceedings brought another layer of drama. My dad's lawyer wanted my perspective on what had been happening at home. I didn't hold back. I talked about the canceled vacation, the car, and even the overheard conversation where my mom had called Jenny the daughter she'd always wanted. It wasn't easy, but it felt necessary. During all this, my mom's obsession with Jenny became even more obvious. She started posting pictures online with captions like, "So proud of my beautiful girl," and "Couldn't ask for a better daughter." She never mentioned me. Not once. It hurt, but it also validated my decision to leave. She wasn't just favoring Jenny. She was erasing me. My dad was my rock through all of it. He kept reminding me that I deserved better and that none of this was my fault. He also encouraged me to set boundaries with my mom, which turned out to be one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten. The breaking point came when my mom confronted me in public. She showed up outside my school, demanding to talk. She was loud enough to draw a crowd, and I could feel everyone's eyes on us. She kept asking, "Why are you doing this to me?" But I didn't take the bait. I calmly told her that I'd be happy to talk when she could respect my boundaries, and left it at that. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. After that, I stopped engaging with her entirely. I told her I wouldn't respond to any messages unless they were respectful. It was a tough stance to take, but it was the only way to protect my peace. My dad supported me every step of the way, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was starting to regain control of my life. Update 2. Not long after I set boundaries with my mom, she stopped reaching out altogether. At first, I thought it was her way of giving me space, but it quickly became clear that she was ignoring me on purpose. She didn't even respond to my polite messages about logistics, like picking up the rest of my things from the house. It was a total shutdown, as if I'd been erased from her life. James, on the other hand, wasn't as quiet. He sent me an email dripping with passive aggression. He wrote about how my decision to leave had torn the family apart and how I needed to grow up and understand the sacrifices my mom had made for me. The entire email was one big guilt trip. My dad read it before I did and advised me not to reply, so I didn't. Meanwhile, Jenny was having a field day. She doubled down on the rumors at school, telling anyone who'd listen that I had left because I couldn't handle sharing attention. Some people believed her, but most didn't. My closest friends stuck by me, and a few even started calling her out for her behavior. That didn't stop her, though. She seemed to thrive on the drama and the attention it brought her. While all of this was happening, my dad's legal team was digging deeper into my mom and James's finances. And what they found was a mess. Apparently, my mom had been using marital assets to cover Jenny's car payments and even fund James's failing business. There were huge discrepancies in how the child support money was being spent. Money that was supposed to be used for me. My dad was furious, but instead of reacting impulsively, he let his lawyer handle it. My mom, however, took her grievances to social media. She posted a long, emotional status about how hard it was to be a mother and how ungrateful children could be. She didn't name me directly, but anyone who knew our situation could tell she was talking about me. Some of her friends commented things like, "Stay strong, mama," and "Kids don't understand what we go through for them." I saw the post and rolled my eyes. Classic manipulation. Despite all the drama, my friends were my rock. They kept reminding me to focus on myself and not let my mom or Jenny's antics get to me. Their support, along with my dad's encouragement, made a huge difference. I also started therapy, which helped me understand that my mom's actions were more about her own insecurities than anything I'd done. It wasn't an excuse, but it gave me some clarity. Then came Jenny's birthday. My mom threw her a massive party, like, over-the-top massive. There was a DJ, catered food, and even a professional photographer. Seeing the pictures online made me cringe. It was hard not to compare it to my last birthday, which had been a quiet dinner with just my mom and James. The blatant favoritism was impossible to ignore. During one of our late-night talks, my dad opened up about his marriage to my mom. He told me how she had always needed validation and how her insecurities often led her to overcompensate in ways that hurt the people around her. Hearing his perspective didn't excuse what she'd done, but it helped me understand her a little better. At school, Jenny's mask started to slip. During a conversation with some mutual acquaintances, she let it slip that she enjoyed being the favorite because it gave her power in the family. Someone recorded it, and the clip made its way around school. It didn't completely turn people against her, but it definitely tarnished her perfect image. Around this time, I got a part-time job at a local bookstore. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me a sense of independence I hadn't felt in a long time. Earning my own money felt empowering, and it kept me busy enough to avoid dwelling on the family drama. The extended family wasn't staying quiet either. One of my aunts, who had been mostly neutral up to this point, finally confronted my mom. She told her she needed to take a hard look at how she was treating me. My mom did not take it well. According to my aunt, she doubled down, insisting that I was the problem and that she had done everything for me. Then my mom's desperation hit a new low. She tried to bribe me with expensive gifts. She sent a package to my dad's house with a designer bag and a note saying she missed me. I sent the package back unopened. My dad told me he was proud of me for standing my ground. The legal case was the tipping point. My dad's lawyer presented the evidence of financial misuse, and the court ruled in my dad's favor. He got more control over the remaining assets, and my mom was ordered to pay back some of the money she had misused. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a step in the right direction. Through it all, I stayed firm in my boundaries. My mom's attempts to manipulate or guilt me didn't work anymore. I wasn't looking for her approval or trying to change her mind. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally free to focus on myself and my future. Update 3. The legal battle finally wrapped up, and my dad came out on top. The court ruled in his favor, granting him more financial security and partial custody rights over the remaining shared assets. It was a huge relief for both of us. But for my mom, it was a disaster. The ruling exposed how she had misused thousands of dollars to spoil Jenny while neglecting me. Jenny's car payments, extracurriculars, and even James's failing business. All funded with money that wasn't hers to spend. It was black and white proof of everything I had been saying for years. My mom, of course, didn't take it well. She lashed out immediately. She sent me a long, furious email claiming that I had destroyed her reputation and torn the family apart. She insisted that I had manipulated my dad into turning against her, and that I was selfish for choosing sides. There wasn't much I could say to that. It was clear she was more upset about being caught than about the impact of her actions. The fallout spread fast. Some of our extended family members couldn't ignore the facts anymore. They reached out to me, apologizing for not believing me sooner. Others, though, were still convinced I was the problem. The split within the family became more obvious, with some taking my side and others blindly defending my mom. And Jenny? She was humiliated. Friends and even some family members started distancing themselves from her. That video clip of her bragging about being the favorite? It was still circulating. People who once adored her were now seeing her true colors. And let me tell you, she did not handle it well. She started lashing out at school, getting into arguments with people who questioned her. Her social media posts became more bitter, filled with vague, passive-aggressive captions. But her biggest meltdown? She cornered me at school. One day, I was walking to class when she stormed up to me, her face red with rage. "You ruined my family," she hissed. She was loud enough to draw a crowd. Instead of taking the bait, I just stared at her calmly. I wasn't playing her game anymore. A couple of classmates stepped in to defend me. One of them literally said, "Jenny, everyone sees what you're doing. Maybe it's time to stop." She stormed off in humiliated silence. That was the moment I knew her power over me was gone. Meanwhile, James's financial troubles had reached their breaking point. His debts finally caught up to him, and he was slapped with a lawsuit from one of his creditors. The lavish lifestyle he and my mom had tried to maintain, crashing down. No more expensive gifts for Jenny. No more over-the-top birthday parties. The house that once felt like a castle was now filled with tension and stress. And honestly, I didn't feel one bit sorry for them. They had made their choices. Now they were facing the consequences. Meanwhile, in MY life, things were better than ever. My dad started dating someone new, Emily. And let me tell you, she was the complete opposite of my mom. She was kind, warm, and never overstepped. She didn't try to act like my replacement mother, she just supported me. She even joined us for dinner sometimes, making an effort to get to know me without prying into the drama. It was a nice change. And the best part? My dad was happy. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in a healthy family environment. Therapy helped too. Slowly but surely, I began to let go of the resentment I had been carrying for so long. I realized I couldn't change my mom, but I could free myself from the weight of her toxic behavior. I focused on school. And guess what? I earned a scholarship. Yep, all my hard work, finally paying off. I even got recognition from my teachers for some of my projects. And when my dad found out, he was over the moon. Emily even baked me a cake to celebrate. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building something positive for my future. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my aunt. My mom had been hospitalized. It wasn't anything life-threatening, but it was serious enough to scare her. My aunt thought I should visit. At first, I hesitated. But then I thought, maybe this is my chance to see if she's finally willing to change. So I went. Walking into that hospital room was surreal. My mom looked surprised to see me, but she didn't say much. We had a brief, polite conversation about her health. It wasn't a heartwarming reunion, but it wasn't hostile either. And Jenny? Nowhere to be found. Not surprising. When I visited their house later to drop off some things for my mom, Jenny barely acknowledged me. She was cold and distant, like she couldn't decide whether to ignore me or start a fight. I wasn't interested in either option. Before leaving the hospital, my mom and I had a real conversation. I told her that I cared about her, but if we were ever going to have a relationship, things needed to change. I was clear about my boundaries. Respect. Honesty. No more favoritism. She nodded along and even admitted that she had made mistakes. But she still refused to take full accountability. It felt like she was trying, but not enough to fix the damage. When I told my dad about it later, he gave me some advice that stuck with me. Not all relationships can be repaired. And that's okay. That was the moment I finally let go. I knew I had tried, but I also knew I couldn't force someone to change if they weren't willing. A few months later, I moved out for college. Packing up my things and saying goodbye to my dad and Emily was bittersweet, but I was excited for a fresh start. As I settled into my dorm and started classes, I realized, for the first time in my life, I was truly free. The toxic environment I had grown up in no longer had a hold on me. I could finally focus on my own happiness, my own future. Looking back, I realized the experience had taught me so much. I learned the value of self-respect. I learned that walking away from toxic relationships isn't weakness. It's strength. And most importantly, I learned that I didn't need my mom's approval to feel whole. Final update. The months after I moved to college felt like a completely different life. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells, waiting for the next fight, guilt trip, or manipulation. I was free. College was a fresh start in every way. I threw myself into my studies, made amazing new friends, and even joined a few clubs. I was thriving, and it felt good to finally be focused on myself without the weight of my mom's toxic behavior dragging me down. But, of course, the drama didn't stay buried for long. One evening, my dad called me. He sounded amused but also a little annoyed. Guess who showed up at my house today? I didn't even have to guess. James' financial situation had completely collapsed. His business had failed, creditors were on their backs, and their once lavish lifestyle had crumbled into a pile of overdue bills and stress. And Jenny? She had completely fallen apart. Without the endless stream of money and special treatment, she had no idea how to function like an actual adult. She had never been taught responsibility, so when life stopped handing her everything on a silver platter, she just gave up. She had dropped out of school, was jobless, and was burning through what little money they had left. And now, my mom was looking for sympathy. She had told my dad that she missed me, that she regretted how things had gone, and that she wanted to make things right. My dad, being the amazing person he is, had listened, but he wasn't buying it. She's not sorry for how she treated you, he told me. She's sorry she doesn't have a safety net anymore. And honestly, he was 100% right. My mom's apology wasn't about genuine remorse. It was about convenience. When she had Jenny, money, and the lifestyle she wanted, she had no issue cutting me out. Now that things weren't going her way, she was suddenly playing the victim. It was classic her. I sat with my feelings for a few days. Part of me wanted to confront her and call her out for every time she had ignored, dismissed, and abandoned me. But another part of me, I just didn't care anymore. I had spent years chasing her approval, trying to make her see me, trying to make her love me the way she should have. I was done. So I sent her a message. It was short, simple, and to the point. I told her that I wasn't interested in rebuilding anything with her unless she was willing to take full accountability for the years of favoritism, neglect, and manipulation. I made it clear that I wasn't looking for an apology just because life had gotten hard for her. I told her that if she was truly ready to change, she knew where to find me, but I wasn't going to hold my breath. And then, I moved on. She never responded, which told me everything I needed to know. Where are they now? Jenny, she's still a mess. She tried to reach out to some of my old friends, but by now, her true colors were obvious. No one wanted to deal with her manipulations anymore. She's bouncing between jobs and still blaming everyone but herself for her downfall. James, his business officially went under, and they had to downsize their entire life. He tried to borrow money from some extended family members, but since everyone saw how they treated me, no one was willing to help. He's stuck dealing with the mess he created. My mom, she's still my mom, but not in any way that really matters. She hasn't made an effort to reach out again, which tells me she's still stuck in her ways. And honestly, I don't need her anymore. Me? I'm happier than ever. My dad and Emily have been nothing but supportive, and my life is finally mine. No more drama. No more manipulation. Just peace. And you know what, darling? Feels so damn good. To anyone dealing with toxic family dynamics, you don't have to keep begging for love and respect. You don't have to stay in a place that hurts you. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. And in the end, you'll be so much happier for it.